Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours here on ViaMonstra Academy. My name is Johan. I'll be host for the next hour. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time, an hour of updates and Q&A and discussions, of course. That means we are ready for the trailer. All right there. It's nice to be back at the office hours. As some of you noticed last week, I was absent due to the Microsoft MVP Summit in Redmond, and Andrew was holding the fort then for me. Today is my turn because Andrew is preparing for a user group meeting. I believe it was in Minneapolis this week, but up in the, I guess it's northwest of here. Not too far, actually. But that means that I'll be running the show. And first out, there were some exciting announcements on the MMS conference. It may not have been a record sell, but if I go ahead and share my screen here. And there we are. You can see that MMS in May is officially sold out. So congrats to the MMS organizations. Fantastic as usual. And I'm looking forward to see you guys in May, all of you. Now, if you didn't get a ticket, don't despair. There is a moment to, or still options to join MMS in Fort Lauderdale, the Flamingo Edition of MMS in October. 3-day conference, but it is great content. I attended the one in Miami last year. Absolute fantastic event. Cannot recommend it enough. It's a great conference. And as rumors have it, I will be there as well this year. So 2 conferences. They're spoiling me, which is, of course, nice. Let's see where we are in the chat at the moment. Just keeping an eye on that one. I've been so spoiled having Andrew as a co-host for a good while. I almost forgot what to do when running it all by myself here. But I should be able to get back on track, I think. There we are. Now, other news that has been circling as of late has been the technical AMA on Cloud PKI that you may have seen. I'll pull that link up. That was going on earlier today. So if you haven't had a chance to catch that one, you can always catch up on the recording. And what I like about these AMAs is that usually the team is pretty good in responding to comments that are coming in even after the event has ended. Not necessarily weeks and months to come, but usually for a good while after a few hours after the event has ended. So if you haven't seen this one, highly recommend to do it. We had Richard here on the show just a little while ago, and 2 weeks ago, in fact, sharing some of his findings on this topic. And speaking of that gentleman, I believe he recently shared a blog post on his findings. Let's see if I can look at that one real quick. So that tweet flashing by earlier. Yeah, here we are. It was this one here. So it was published a little while ago. I didn't notice it, but highly recommend taking a look at that one. and see if there are any more recent posts. Yeah, this one as well. All right, good news there. I did notice that our friends over at Patch My PC have a upcoming webinar on the 27th, same day as we're running our graph course here on the Academy. So hoping they won't conflict too much, but I really like the topic. As many of you have seen, Patch My PC has gone in and helped out the PSAppDeployToolkit folks with additional development resources and whatnot, and I'm going to share some of that information on this webinar. So that is fantastic news. Shameless plug, or not so shameless, because it's one of our community courses. It's absolutely free to attend. But you might have seen that we announced the Intune automation using Microsoft Graph mini course of that same date, March 27, and me and Andrew Johnson that will be spending an hour and a half sharing our tips and tricks on automating what you have in Intune. The price for this one is, of course, like all other mini courses on the Academy, just right. It is free, so simply sign up and we'll take you through a bit of Microsoft Graph there. Let's see, what else did I note down? Oh yeah, I think Andrew mentioned this last week, but just to give you a friendly reminder, we have the Windows Server Summit that is coming up, and it did not like that link. Let's try again. How hard can it be? Copy paste. Much better. Live in 5 days. So 3 days, a lot of sessions regarding Windows Server 2025. So even though that might be not your absolute focus area when working with Intune and ConfigMgr and other things, I do recommend to keep an eye on it, because the likelihood that you will stumble across this operating system is pretty high, put it that way. Okay. Let's see what else. No, I think that was it in terms of news. And that brings us into our Q&A section. So if you have any comments or questions, did see hi there from Matt in the YouTube channel. Good to talk to you again, or hear from you again. And there was also a question with driver tools. When I run it, I get a message it could not find the XML file. Is that possibly the modern driver management script, or is it a different driver tool that you are referring to? That was the question from my end. All right, it was indeed the modern driver management script. So that script has the capability of using an XML file, but it's only for the script itself can use it to support an offline mode because the default script doesn't. If it was the driver automation tool itself, it is probably the settings XML file. So if I go to one of my environments here and take a look in installation folder for that one, the default is in program files, MSM point manager. Here's the driver automation tool. In the settings folder, this is where it keeps XML file for all the settings. And if that one gets either removed or corrupt, because I have seen it gone corrupt a few times, you will have to recreate those settings. That's the only thing I can think of there. Otherwise, it does store the various catalog files in this folder here. And those are also XML files. If it couldn't download those catalogs, that could be the reason. But it should do that if you open the tool and click Find Models. It should force it to do a re-download of those catalogs, or simply close and open the tool. So that would be my 2 cents for it. Please note that Maurice recently released an update for this tool, version 7.2.3, so one version newer than this one. So if you go here over to MS Endpoint Manager, this is where you have the tool, and this is where you can download the latest version of it. And the same goes with the script. There is a new release of the script also that added in support for 23H2. So make sure you have those 2 latest versions combined, and you should be good to go. All right. There was another question from YouTube coming in from Carol here. You mentioned sometimes you're using water driver management to update drivers. Can you share some details on that process? Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to. The driver automation script, the one that I showed you here, it has a few different modes you can run it in. So you can run it in bare metal, you can run it for pre-caching, you can run it for OS upgrade, and you can run it for update. If you go back to the documentation, it was one of these steps that was listing the various modes. Yeah, here. So in addition to bare metal, you have these here. And then also, as I mentioned, you have that XML package option if you want to run it offline. The way it would look in production would be that you would still have the same packages. So you use the driver automation tool to create all the packages that you need for your different hardware vendors. So these are just driver packages, each of them containing a Vim file. I didn't create the package. I didn't create the Vim file. The tool did, because the tool is configured to create Vim files as part of you downloading MECM models from here. But then you need a sequence to do the update. So here I have a very small sequence, but the only thing it does is update drivers. So setting the variable for the username and password that is used to contact the admin service to read information about packages. And then there is a one-liner that runs the script, or a run script action that runs the script. But as you can see here, I am using the driver update parameter for this. And then I have a reboot after the fact. So that's something you can just push out and it will go ahead and update drivers. So this is how you would do it in ConfigMgr, because ConfigMgr, unlike Intune, doesn't have any native options to update drivers. You can obviously work with vendor tools like HP, Dell, and others. They have like integrations with ConfigMgr, but I happen to like this approach because it works across vendors and not just the big vendors, a lot of the smaller vendors as well. You may not be able to create the packages for them using the tool, but you can still install and update them. Because if you look into the PowerShell script itself, let's see where I have it here. You can see there is a fairly large model and vendor detection section, even to some vendors that I have not with. Viglen, I think, is a machine from the UK back in the early days. GTAC is like PowerBooked or tough, rough devices. Devices that can take a beating, put it that way. Like Panasonic as well. But and you can extend this. If there's something that is missing, you can add your own things here if needed. It's just a script. But I hope that answered the question. That's one way to deal with updates through ConfigMgr. It's an elegant solution. Other options, of course, is go Intune, because Intune these days does support driver update and firmware update also across vendors. It's not the most elegant solution yet, but it's a good start, and it will update drivers and BIOSes for you. So if I go to my updates node, and they changed the UI here 2 months ago, but if I go to my driver updates, this is where I have my different profiles for driver updates. And this one I have assigned to a group, and for each of these models, as you can see, there are some drivers and BIOSes available. And if I wanted to approve one, I will go ahead and approve it, and we'll put in a date from where it's been approved. Bulk improvement apparently is coming. You can do that already today using PowerShell. There is also an option here to put in automatic update. Don't really recommend to do that at the moment, because the targeting here leaves room for improvement. In my own opinion here, the vendor should provide more info about the drivers than what I can see right now. At this point, I am not comfortable just allowing Intune to automatically go ahead and approve drivers, because I've seen last year where drivers were approved that were not the best driver for the device, put it that way. It was a matching driver, yes, but not a functional one. So time will tell. Time will tell. So a long and convoluted answer to a short question there. CEO is asking if I've used SAPIEN PowerShell Studio. Yes, I have. I have a subscription for that one. They just changed it back to perpetual licenses. I think it was just before Christmas, but it's a great tool. PowerShell Studio. See if I can find the link here. It's a few $100 if you buy the perpetual licenses these days. SAPIEN Studio. So highly recommended if you need to build the user interfaces in PowerShell. Of course, you can use Visual Studio as well. Visual Studio later versions have an XML design editor built into it. It works. VS Code does not have a good one that I've seen. I may have missed a plugin or two, but VS Studio has one, and this one exists. If anyone has found a really great one for VS Code, let me know and I'll be happy to share the information and probably also try it out myself. But yeah, this is great stuff. Let's see. Also another question coming in on YouTube here. A gentleman thinking about going into AVD, meaning VMs in virtual machines in Azure, VDI machines. One of the options being recommended by Microsoft is to use the Nerdio solution for Marketplace. I have not used that one at all. The question was if I had any experience or feedback. I haven't tried it, so I don't know. If anyone is familiar with the Nerdio solution on the Marketplace, please let me know in the comments here. I'll be happy to share that information, but it's out of my knowledge, so I don't know. So let's see. There was a follow-up comment. No, that was a new question. I thought it was a follow-up. It wasn't. A question regarding the Christmas videos from 2022 that I did. Okay, I think you need to be a little bit more specific than that. Which episode? Because I did a bunch of them. Up on the deployment research YouTube channel, I was posting a bunch of stuff dressed up in ugly Christmas sweaters. So these were the episodes from 2022. So driver automation, apparently I did a session in 2022. I'm going to go ahead and search. So this was quite like, yeah, probably this session then. Could it be session 12? Number 12, all right, confirmed. So I don't quite follow the question. So it was regarding copying the install file and the script. Can you please show us? So the only thing you need to do to set up the drive automation tool is to go to the website that I showed earlier. And install the MSI. That will install the tool that creates the packages. In regards to the script that installs them at runtime, that is just the package here in ConfigMgr. So I have a script package that has no programs, no nothing. But if I go to that folder, the only script you must have in this one is the invoke CM-apply driver package script. Because that's the script I'm referring to in the sequence. Now, a beautiful thing with this script here is that you can run it in a debug mode for testing. So here I have an example that I was using just to test it out, but you can run that script in a debug mode kind of scenario. And I can specify a specific version of Windows and a model and whatever I want to ask for to see if I have it. Because this script in the backend is using the admin service to get information about your packages. So for example, this one here, let's see if I have any credentials stored. Yeah, I do. I can ask the ConfigMgr web service for all driver packages that ConfigMgr has. So I can do that over here as well. It will tell me if I have a package available for this one here, and I can review the log file to see that information. So useful, very useful tool to support drivers in your environment. All right, let's see what else. Got to thank you for those videos in the chat. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's see. Carol was asking in the YouTube channel, having issues installing monthly update through ConfigMgr. About 1% of devices are missing a registry entry. The update service URL alternate. Troubleshooting, I found that it's missing a local policy. Yeah, I have seen for companies, and we talked about this quite a few times here on the office hours, where registry keys either incorrectly set or missing can really confuse the workload coming from Intune for start updates. And I remember Andrew has shared a few times a blog post that he wrote with the PowerShell script that he uses to make sure that these these updates have the right settings. So these registry keys have the right settings. As to why that sometimes is usually policies or something that has been on the device but no longer are on the device, but have been like left behind, like tattooed on the devices themselves. As to why that specific registry key, I don't know. Nothing that rings a bell, I'm afraid. The only thing that comes to mind is I saw some tweets between Kaido and Jason Sanders yesterday, where there apparently was some bug around alternate source providers. And this registry key kind of sounds like it. You're not exactly alone having problems with that key. Yeah. Maybe related to this. Not that one. But this setting here. This is a client setting in ConfigMgr. And it was initially required. Kylo here apparently agrees to that part. No, I cannot help you at the moment, sir. I am busy. I'm doing a webinar and I'm drinking coffee. You will have to wait. I know exactly what he wants. He wants to be not in this room. He wants to be on the other side of the door, but he will have to endure. So anyhow, if I pick up some settings here from my client settings, software updates, forgot where the Delta settings was. Here, this one. If this one was, so this one had to be set to yes in the other versions of ConfigMgr, and they then remove that requirement. But what we found is that ConfigMgr does it anyway on those machines. So there is a documentation page somewhere that tells you this. But basically, if you have a device with a ConfigMgr client, and in the logs folder, let's see what it was called, update GPO something. Oh, good Lord. Memory. Update GPO log. That was the log file. I don't think I have anything on this machine here. No, I did not. But if you have this log file, it can indicate that ConfigMgr is setting this value. So take a look at that one. We have shared this blog post a few times here in office hours. So I will start there. And if you can't find anything based on that information, I would recommend filing a support case. And I can see if I can find an internal support case for this floof here. Yeah, that worked. Delegated to Mr. Michael. 10 years old, about this high. Very capable of opening a door. How about that for multitasking? Okay, let's see what else. There was another question coming in on YouTube here regarding last week at the MVP Summit. Any update regarding the dev tenant? Nope, but I was very vocal during my visit. I complained to pretty much everyone I could find about Microsoft removing easy access to developer tenants for testing and learning and, having a lab environment. So hopefully one of them that I talked to would listen and it will be brought back. But I didn't get the yes, we'll do it at the summit. But I interrupted a good few sessions asking for it. So I did everything I could to raise the voice at least. But right now, unfortunately, the EMS E5 trials are gone. And the developer program is very restricted, in which people that either can apply for it or can have it renewed. As to why, I don't know, but of course there's a cost to running data centers. I get that part, but yeah. It hurts me to my core that they removed easy access to trial licenses for Intune and related ecosystems, because that has always been one of Microsoft's strongholds or great features that it's always been easy for someone who wants to learn about, anything. They would be able to head over to the evaluation center that Microsoft has, and they would just pick whatever they want to learn about, like ConfigMgr that is on security, and they can download ConfigMgr and play around with it. I want to have the same thing for cloud services. I think anybody should be able to try it out and learn from it. And I have a feeling that it will actually pay itself back to Microsoft in the long run. Anyhow, that I don't have any more updates. I'm afraid. Let's see. Kurt had a question here on YouTube. Entra to do automatic enrollment for Windows devices into Intune. One click. I'm not quite following the question. So, well, at least I can show you the settings. Maybe we can have a discussion from that part. So there was a question regarding the enrollment settings. So these are here. And the UI changed a little bit recently, but they are in the same area. So this is where you have the automatic enrollment configured, or I have in my environment, and I have two groups that are being allowed users to do this. And I'm using the same groups as I have for my licenses, because that's one of the main reasons an enrollment failed, is because the user didn't have a license. But I'm trying to understand the last part of the question there. So Kurt, maybe if you can try to clarify for an elderly geek who didn't quite catch it the first time. It might be that the gentleman that posted the question is asking how we can easily switch between different profiles. Because in Autopilot, as most of you know, you can have a bunch of different deployment profiles. Those are usually assigned to a group and a device is added to the group. But you can definitely have custom solutions that either will prompt for a group at deployment time, or that will prompt for a list of profiles that are being copied over to the device during deployment. That's how the existing devices scenario work. That is doable. It's just that there is nothing like that built in where you can pick and choose during out-of-box experience. But you can show something custom that allow you to pick and choose. And that something custom can either copy a file or assign a device to or add a device to the right group. I typically use web services to do that kind of work, where the client talks a web service and the web service in turn do the configuration. But it can be simple, so you just have a little PowerShell front end with a drop down, copying the right JSON file to the device. Because that's all it takes. All right, let's see. Egmont is asking on YouTube, can you give some guidance for adding certificates for bootimages to support NAC? So basically 802.1x, I'm assuming here. I did have a gentleman over from Sweden many years ago. He wrote up some guidance on 802.1x for deployment research. So that was a good decade ago. So maybe we can borrow something from that. The way we've been doing it recently in production has been configuring the network switch to allow a port temporarily. So we allow the machines to boot from a specific server, but we don't allow it to do anything else. And then we take that PXE request on the server side. We look up the device in a database, say ConfigMgr, and if the device is allowed to boot, there is a call to the switch to open up the port for X amount of hours, during which you deploy the device. And when the device comes up in Windows and gets all the certificate and whatnot, all is good. So that's how we do it in production these days. Typically, we integrate with the switches. I remember Adam Gross had some good solutions around that. He's been sharing on his blog. Wonder if I had anything up on the script repo. I have to check. It's been a while. No, nothing 821X, I think. Yeah, maybe. I think that's Matt's script that he shared. Yeah, that's probably it because it's fairly old. It's a VB script from Windows 7 timeframe. No, I would recommend looking into some sort of automation around the server side, because that's a more elegant solution than trying to smack in device registry or device certificates into a boot image somehow. Yeah, basically downloading XML files and smacking them in through a script that will give the machine a cert in WinPE. Alrighty. See if I can find something from Adam. It was either him or Gary. Yeah, here we are. Adam. So he did like a 5-part series back in the days on 821X. So this is the part 5 of it, but no, this is the table of content. But this is a similar solution here, where you work with the vendors to allow the traffic. Two Point Software also has some information around this. That's the company I work part-time for these days. So see if there is something on their blog. Nope, don't think so. But this is usually, this one here is usually the PXE service that we use to take the request from the client and make something with it. Because we see things like the MAC address and things, the model and all that information from the client when it's PXE booting. And that information is stored in a database that we can use something with. So unlike ConfigMgr's PXE boot, this one has much more details about what's coming in. And we can choose whether to allow a machine to boot or not boot based on, yeah, like a PowerShell script, basically. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, we did have, it was a follow-up comment on YouTube from Dan. Thank you for that. Mike and Keith and Tim did a video a while back. Explaining a little bit about that process I mentioned earlier. That would be the one. Yeah, 3 months ago. So that would be a good start. Yeah, Mike Terrell, Keith Garner, and Tim Mentner. If you're doing imaging, it's very, very likely that you heard about those gentlemen at some point in the past. So yeah. All right. Matthew is asking on YouTube, I need to update my whole site from 2103 up to current. Never done this before. Any tips? Should I wait for 24 version or 2403? You do not have to go through each version. You can jump to the next available one. So if you are on 2103, it might take you all the way up to at least 23 right away. You may have to do it in 2 different runs. If your site is 2103, you probably want to go upgrade ADK as well, unless you have done that separately. But the process is very straightforward. Servicing of ConfigMgr has been quite reliable for a number of years now. There are plenty of guides out there to follow, but it's a straightforward procedure. Check if the server has a pending reboot. I usually have a script for that I run. A PowerShell script you can find up on the GitHub repository for my blog. But it's basically you run that script. It will check for pending reboot, if there is one, reboot first, and then do the upgrade. And when you're done with the upgrade, don't forget things to like updating your boot images, because boot images also contains ConfigMgr binaries in them. So if I take this one here that I was working on the other day, you can see that my production ConfigMgr version is this one here, and the boot image client that is in the boot image is this one here. So this one is perfect. This one is what it should be. But if you go on to the boot image that I didn't touch yet, because I did that just a few days ago here, like this one here. I was playing one with a new version of the ADK that is not yet supported by ConfigMgr, this one here. But as you can see, I have a mismatch between versions, and you don't want to do that. So, fairly straightforward, I think. All right. There is a question here on YouTube. Can you share your script to convert a driver package to the Vim? Usually I use the drive automation tool to create Vim files of my driver packages, but every now and then you work with a vendor that doesn't exist in the tool, or you create a manual package for troubleshooting, or you create a manual package because the vendor's catalog is not yet updated, and then you can just create a file for PowerShell. See if I have this one here. Very straightforward example. You have a mount folder. You have a driver source of whatever, in this case, a Lenovo M92P. You copy that driver package to a temp folder, and you run a one-liner that generates the Vim file. And then you create a package from that one. So that's basically how you create the driver package manually. That is a Vim file. But it is such a difference. I was doing a ConfigMgr class this week for a company up in Phoenix, a training company called Interfaces that I worked with for many, many years. And we reviewed driver packages as part of that training. And this is, if I go to the sources of one of these files, this is where you start to see the difference, where you either download a file that is barely a gig or exactly a gig, instead of downloading hundreds of files that combined are almost 2.5-3 gigs in size. From a network point of view, it's way more effective to download a single file that is a gig versus a good few hundred or 1,000 that is 3 times the size of that. So, long answer to a short question. That was a follow-up. Is that script on my repository? I don't know. But I know a guy. Well, it is now. So if you go to GitHub, research, files, scripts, and drivers, there it is. So yes, it's on my repository, or our repository, because Andrew is guilty as charged for some of this stuff as well. Dang, lots of good questions today. But we still have a whopping 6 more minutes available, so if there are any questions, by all means, let me know. I'll do my best to answer. Half and half. Expected Andrew to sneak in a question or two behind the scenes here, but I don't see any comments there. Would not have surprised me. All right, I do not see any more questions coming in at the moment. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for the many good questions and comments, and I hope to see you again next week. Over and out for now. Thank you.